And we are live. Good morning,
Mhm.
everybody. Welcome
Good
to
morning.
Business. Good morning. Welcome to Business Growth Insiders, episode number 11. I am
Mhm.
Jeff Evans, President, CEO, and everything of J. Vincent Creative. With me, the tick to my talk, Lisa McGuire. How you doing, Lisa?
Good morning, Jeff. And I understand today we have a birthday to celebrate. Well, not we, but you have a birthday to celebrate.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that it was my birthday today. No, of
Well,
course I
yeah,
did.
LinkedIn told me this morning when I sign on to LinkedIn. It's so nice because they tell me whose birthday it is. They told me it was your birthday. So we're going to hear a much older and wiser Jeff Evans today, right?
Yes, and hopefully after this conversation with our guest, a much thinner Jeff Evans as well. So let's get into that. All right. So today's guest is Suzanne Carpenter. Suzanne is an approachable, sincere, fun-loving, and passionate leader who loves to see personal improvement and transformation in those she teaches. Through her successful 10-year nutrition career, Suzanne saw a gap in the industry and trend in society. Americans are more confused and overwhelmed than ever when it comes to actually losing weight and keeping it off. Amen to that. She created a virtual nutrition education company called Carpenter 180, whose mission it is to provide affordable and simple programs that can clear up food confusion so that people can win at losing weight. Suzanne is a certified nutritional consultant and CEO and founder of Carpenter 180, as well as the creator of SOS, Sue's on Your Shoulder, Babysit My Plate. That's a great name. Love that one.
Thank you.
And the Food Peace University. 3 different virtual bite-sized nutrition courses. They were designed to teach you what you need to know to create sustainable results. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning and
Good
happy
morning.
birthday to you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. I am going to have birthday cake today, and
Very
it is a
Mhm.
Minions. No, I'm sorry. It's a Despicable Me luau birthday cake. That is correct.
so
From
somebody else
Publix.
helped pick out the theme.
Yes, yes, it's not healthy whatsoever. And after this conversation, I'm going to feel real guilty about eating it. But
Not
I'm
at all.
still going to eat it on my birthday. That's right. So, anyways, let's get to it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How you got into this? Your background. Really, anything that you want to discuss today.
Sure. Well, let me just start out with I had a secret, like most of my teen through adult life, that I planned to never tell anybody. It was just mine to hold tight. So, born and raised in Michigan, met my husband. We've been together 24 years, 4 kids. One of them is a sophomore in college, and I can't even believe that.
Mhm.
And 10 years ago was one of those pivotal moments in our life. And I used to teach first grade until number 2 came home. And that's where I picked up like this superpower where once I understand science, I can explain it in a way that a first grader can get it. So I
Mhm.
come home and I'm raising the kids. 2009 happens. That was when the auto industry tanked and we were living in Michigan at the time. And we had to pivot after my husband's 14-year career and we moved down to Jackson, Mississippi. And that was where I jumped into just a direct sales company and I kind of got my entrepreneur chops about me. I just sort
Mhm.
of liked the idea of working for myself, employing an income. So while I was doing that, I was fitting people to products, but I noticed this hole, and it was, like I said, down in Jackson, Mississippi. So people were trying to get healthy with barbecue and yeast rolls, and that wasn't working. And I found a passion for helping in the kitchen. I really wanted to hard up for people so that we could get real transformation to happen. So while I'm doing this work in the early stages, somebody says, hey, you say that you would die for your kids, but would you change for them? And that was the question that altered everything. And I
Mhm.
lost sleep over that question. I stewed on it because my secret was starting to bubble up a little bit. And that was that I had had a lifelong eating disorder. I have 2 girls, and that question made me face the fact that if I didn't get help for me, they were very likely to repeat what I was doing with the negative self-talk in the morning and just the whole eating disorder because I'm their number 1 role model. All right, so the reason I tell all that to you is because I went through that for myself, even though I never planned to talk about it, once I went through it and I took away the shame that was really attached to that big, heavy subject, I saw that this is really on a not as deep of a level. This is a struggle for 2 out of 3 Americans, because 2 out of 3 Americans are overweight. 1 out of 3 is obese. And as I got the information that filled in a couple of the gaps I had, I just started seeing where this is not as confusing as we think it is. We just need to learn it in the right way. And it became my mission to actually teach this so that people can have real understanding and inspiration, and then move away from that yo-yo dieting, that mentality of I always have to start a diet tomorrow, and instead move into a life where they look and feel their very best, and that way they're able to give so much more of themselves in an every single day type of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's incredible. I mean, we certainly, as Americans struggle with diet and exercise constantly. Personally, I enjoy the exercise way more than the diet. That's always been my get. Of course, now being at home, stuck here in our quarantine, because we are still in the quarantine, it's been a lot more difficult that way. And I'm not the only one. And I know that a lot of people that are going to watch this or listen to this, won't admit it, but they're certainly having those issues now too, specifically being stuck in here. I mean, there are people that have taken this opportunity to get better and so on. But I would assume, unfortunately, that the majority of people are going the opposite direction. I know certainly I am, and Dunkin' Donuts is taking a lot of my money. So, what can people do now that we're stuck in here? To get away from the yo-yo diets, to get away from Dunkin' Donuts, to get away from this comfort food that makes people feel safe, because that's, I think, what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, okay. So I'm really glad that you brought up the word comfort food, because I can definitely springboard from that. And I believe knowledge is power, but knowledge is powerless without action. So I want to explain it a little bit about the feeling spectrum and the comfort eating, because I think if you can understand psychologically what's probably happening to most Americans or most in the world, when you know more, you can do better. So right now, let me start out with, we are in this really unusual time where I picture a lot of us to be little caterpillars, and we're in the cocoon of our home right now. And a lot of us would love the opportunity that or you could think about it this way, when the quarantine is lifted and you're able to leave the cocoon, you're as though you can emerge a butterfly, or you can just flop out. This could be an incredible transformation time for people if we can agree to just start right now. Doesn't matter what we've done for the last month, but you can definitely take this moment, move forward, do it bad, perfect, and just show up. So there has been, like, my 10-year experience, there's always excuses for why somebody's not ready to start. And they're things like, I don't know, I have this nutty schedule and I don't have time to plan my meals, and I am always dining out, and I have this happening, and I have this party coming and this vacation. There's always these big events that make people put the brakes on a little bit. We don't have those events right now. What we have instead is a new distraction that I want to talk about, and it's called your fridge and your pantry. So first off, the reason the fridge and the pantry are calling your name, and I imagine a lot of people who are still listening to me are going, yeah, it chirps in my ear all the time. I want to just first say that's really normal, because I would imagine in some way, most everybody can agree that they feel some form of boredom, anxiety, they're unsure, stress, tension. Somebody's probably going to land in one of those. Those are obviously negative emotions. So the feeling spectrum is over here. We have the negative emotions, and it's something, think about, like, it's so bad you couldn't keep your hand on it, like a hot stove. You'd have to take your hand off. It's so bad. Over here, the positive emotions, like the endorphins you get from a run, they're so great, but they don't last. Okay, we as humans are wired to want to move away as fast as we can from pain. Obviously, you take your hand off the hot stove. So right now, what's happening is we're trying to get away from the pain of stress, overwhelm, anxiety, boredom, whatever it is. We're trying to move away. That's very natural. Now, society says, well, we all know that we could move away from pain and cover it up with things that don't serve us, like overspending, stealing, driving too fast down the road, gambling, things that you could do that might give you a little bit of a rush, but society frowns on it, so you probably don't do it that much. However, society doesn't seem to frown on overdoing ice cream and so food can give you a little endorphin. It can help you feel better. So here we have this stress problem. Let's call it the stress problem. And then we're going to eat the Ben and Jerry's, and it's going to cover, or the donuts, the Dunkin' Donuts. It's going to temporarily numb and cover up the pain. The problem is the food is finite. And when the food is gone, it's like we're left with the problem is still there. And then we have now the pain of regret, and our stomach hurts, and we've got the blood sugar up and down. So I want you to know that if you are numbing out, if you are overeating and comfort eating, it's incredibly normal because you are trying to help yourself get closer to the happy side. But I want you to realize, though, we're still going to be left with the original problem. The second part to the comfort eating that I find fascinating, if you think about what your comfort foods are, and if somebody puts a couple ideas in their head, I bet one or most of those were things that you ate when you were a child. And the reason we're going after those comfort foods is because we're trying to go back to that remembering room of a time when we felt safe, secure, somebody was taking care of us, relatively lower amounts of stress. So the reason we're comfort eating has a lot more to do of just trying to self-preserve. It's just, it's time now to start making a couple of different habits.
Suzanne, I like what you said about the eating that we're doing. Really, it's a Band-Aid on covering up the wound that's underneath or the pain that's underneath. So how can we become more aware of why we're actually eating? I think a lot of times people feel an emotion, and it's almost like we're on autopilot. We go find something that's going to make us feel better. And then after we come out of it, then on the other side, we're kind of beating ourselves up. Why do we do that?
Okay, and I definitely want to talk about really practical things. But before we go down that trail, the answer to your question is, let's just define what emotional hunger is and what true hunger is. And
that'd be good.
You can get to where you pause before you jump into the pretzels and chocolate chips next time, and you can am I emotionally or physically hungry? This could help you. So the first sign that you are emotionally eating is it came on really fast. Like maybe you walked in the back door and all of a sudden you're like, peanut butter. I need peanut butter like it's my job. And it came out of nowhere. That's an emotional response to hunger. Really, true hunger ramps up, and it's where you're sitting at your desk and all of a sudden you hear the growling, or you start to feel your stomach kind of like hurt a little bit. That's the second way you can distinguish. True hunger, you're going to have those feelings of hunger, pain, or you're going to hear. And the reason, this is the science, this is what I love. The reason for it is because there's no food in your gut to buffer the sound. So you're hearing the organ and the muscles churning. So that tells you, yep, there's no food in my belly. I'm actually hungry. Now, the third way you can tell the difference between emotional and physical hunger is, let's say you just finished lunch. And then you ate a great lunch. It was enough. You should be full. But an hour later, all of a sudden, you're jonesing for something again. Probably that is emotional hunger. And I bet for a lot of people who are listening to this, who are now with a new land of distractions, working from home, who are still working to move things forward, I bet that sudden hunger that came on after lunch or after dinner is associated with something you probably want to avoid or don't want to do. It's not uncommon to like come up against, I have to write an email that's a little uncomfortable or do a live or do a Zoom, and you all of a sudden are thinking, chips, I need chips. When really it's what's underneath the chips. It's probably you need some comfort. Probably you've been operating in the land of uncomfortable for so long that your biology is saying, we've got to roll the stress down a little bit. So let's go get some food. Let's find some comfort. And that's why it's happening.
Interesting. Yeah, there's so much I think that we coast through and we're not present of. So just taking that time to pause and ask that question, am I really hungry or am I emotionally hungry?
Yes.
and how you're going to feed that, how you're going to respond to that. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
It's
it's
But
good.
it
actually
can be hard. It can feel really hard.
Mhm.
yeah. That's actually a really genius thought, especially for the entrepreneur, the business owner, which is why we do the show. That's obviously the primary people that we're trying to reach. And these folks they're either in an office still, and it's really quiet, obviously, or they're home
Mhm.
working. And if you're home working and you've got a full pantry and a full refrigerator, you've
Mhm.
got to heed Suzanne's advice here. If you're thinking about the food, mm-mm. If your body's telling you that you need the food,
Mhm.
that's when you should eat. And that's actually a really genius thing that I'm definitely gonna stick with. I like that a lot. Any
Tomorrow.
other? Yeah, tomorrow. Well, I'll do it for the majority of the day. I mean, if I eat garbage, for lunch, it's so hard to get work done the rest of the day. It
Mhm.
affects your brain. It affects your discipline. There's so much that goes into proper eating, and I'm very attuned to what my body is telling me, and boy, it definitely knows the difference between the two for
Mhm.
sure. You know. So, with that being said, Suzanne, look, what other kinds of advice, or could you give us some recommendations, like from like a proper diet, something, not a diet but a proper way of eating, a lifestyle, right? So
Sure.
maybe bust through some of these fads, like, are you a believer in keto or Atkins, or the South Beach diet, or Mediterranean garbage, or paleo and the meat eaters diet, and
You've
you
been
know
reading, Jeff.
I've been reading. Yeah, I read all the time. I'm also married, so definitely know about every single bloody diet there is. My personal favorite is the chocolate diet or the coffee diet, because I love coffee. So either one is good with me. But obviously, they're both terrible. So what do you got, Suzanne? What's something that's going to help me, actually, feel better and live longer?
Sure. Okay, so let's first agree that food is neither good nor bad. Food is
Okay.
just food. Food eaten in excess is really where we get into trouble.
Okay.
Problem is food is everywhere, and we as Americans tend to prescribe to more is better, quantity
Mhm.
over quality. Okay, so first challenge is I don't really prescribe to any diet. I'm going to talk about protein, fat, and fiber. But what I want people to really think about, and this is the introspective time, is I need to decide a pattern of eating that I'm doing now that I can do when I'm 70. And if we don't have
Mhm.
something you're doing now that is sustainable 70, when you're 80, when you're 90, we have not found the right pattern of eating. So all I did with my science, and Carpenter 180 is completely backed in science, is I took the macronutrients, which are a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate, and I talk about a protein, a fat, and a fiber, which is found within the carbohydrate.
Mhm.
Now, here's why. When you filled your plate with protein, a fat, and a fiber, you put all three things on your plate, you have just cut off about 8 hungry hormones. The hormones that if you don't turn off all 8 of them, one of them is screaming in your ear to go get into the pantry in the fridge. So what'll happen when you build your plate with protein, fat, and fiber, you've turned off hungry hormones. We're balancing your blood sugar, so you're like on the kiddie roller coaster rather than the really high and the really low blood sugar. When you're balancing your blood sugar, you're very much more likely to make good decisions throughout the rest of the day. So a couple things. Protein, fat, and fiber at every meal make maintaining weight no big deal. So great sources of fiber are your whole grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables. You want to have a protein on a plate because that's going to protect and preserve your lean muscle, and it's going to turn off your cravings for sugars and carbs. Fat has
Mhm.
this great quality of helping you to feel like you've had something decadent. It helps to slow gastric emptying so you'll feel full longer, and it helps to balance hormones and temperature, which are all things that we really want to be doing, especially in this season. So at a practical level, can you do protein, fat, and fiber at breakfast, say? Just win that first third of the day. The Trying to do a whole day perfect feels like a lot, but could you just do breakfast? Maybe it's a smoothie with a protein powder and almond milk and a scoop of peanut butter and ice. Maybe it's an egg white omelet with last night's vegetables thrown in and a side of GG crackers. Now, everybody in your community should know about GG crackers, literally the letter G crackers. These you can find off of Amazon. And these are dry. They are bland. I don't want to oversell them, but they are an incredible fiber vessel to get food to your mouth. And they deliver 4 grams of fiber per cracker. Your body will burn calories trying to digest this fiber. So let me segue into the super unfancy nutrient that we're not eating enough of. So in the Industrial Revolution, when they started to process foods, they started to take the endosperm out of food. That's a fancy $5 word for they started to refine everything, the white flour. What happened is the fiber went down, American waistlines went up. So women should be shooting for about 35 grams of fiber a day, men around 38. Kids need fiber. Is going to help with health. And that's where I come from with this platform. It's not about what jean size you wear. It is not about vanity. It's about, do you feel good? Are you healthy? And are you awake and alert and ready to go fight and build and scale your business, especially as entrepreneurs? So what fiber will do is it'll help to balance blood sugar, reduce cholesterol, help to reduce type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, reduce inflammation. The health benefits are incredible. But in terms of weight management and weight loss, fiber is a 0-calorie part to a carbohydrate. So that means your body cannot digest the fiber, but it is going to try the whole time it's in your GI tract. It's like your body is burning additional calories trying to digest this nutrient that it cannot digest. And because of the foods that fiber is carried in, the great news is your stomach is going to stretch and you're going to feel full. And because it's got bulk, you can have weight loss without hunger or deprivation. So the premise behind the fiber diet is it's going to help you feel full. It'll slow gastric emptying, rev your metabolism. You can malabsorb about 90 calories a day. If you get to about 24 grams of fiber a day, that can lead to a 10-pound weight loss just by adding in this nutrient. And the thing about this is people come to me and they're afraid that they're going to feel hungry. And there's going to come this point, logic overrides emotion, where emotions override logic, and they end up in the pantry diving and undoing all their good work. Women tend to stick with something for about 4 weeks. Men tend to stick with something for about 6 weeks. So in creating Carpenter 180, it's not about creating a diet. It's about creating a lifestyle that you can sustain. So we begin with learning protein, fat, and fiber at every meal makes maintaining or losing weight no big deal. Then, as we begin to get good at that, we start incorporating in things like thoughtful indulgences, which would be Jeff's birthday cake. It's not about taking your favorite foods out for the rest of your life. It's about how do we work these things into my lifestyle while I'm losing weight, and how do I keep these things in my lifestyle while I maintain my weight? If you love chocolate and you have to take chocolate out in order to lose weight, what's going to happen when you get to the end of that weight loss season and you introduce chocolate again? You're going to get the weight back. Can't stand the idea that on the day somebody dies, that they're still struggling with this one topic, because people who are on here are successful. They've been successful in many areas of life, and success leaves clues. So I built Carpenter 180 as a place of, here's where you can get the information you need so you can also have success here, not just in these other spokes of life.
That's really good information to have, Suzanne. And the thing I like about it is it's all about feeling good for the long term. And as business owners and entrepreneurs, if we don't feel good personally, we're not going to do our best and give our best to our clients. So having you here to give that advice to our business owners and our listeners about how to look at the, where you're going the best way long term, that really is going to help all of us. So you mentioned Carpenter 180, you've referenced a couple times. Tell us, what do you do? So if I come to you for Carpenter 180 or whatever your services are, tell us what that looks like.
Sure. Okay, so you can land in one of the places. The one that I'm excited is called Suzanne Your Shoulder. It's a subscription. It's $15. You start out with 7 free days just to see if it's a fit. Here's what it is. This is addressing the person who has no time and they want to do it on a budget and they feel very overwhelmed. So I took away all the obstacles, and it's a soundbite. It's me and my voice coming to your phone, right to your text message every day, you're getting a little soundbite that's teaching you what you need to know along your journey. This is why I did it. I used to teach first grade. I understand how people learn. Do you remember a season, Lisa, when you took a test or a board exam and you had all the books on your desk and you felt so overwhelmed and you got to the test and you left the test, you got to the car and you could almost feel the information leaking out of your ears because you're so overwhelmed? That's what nutrition can feel like for people. So I invented SOS, or Suzanne on your shoulder, so that I can give you 2-minute to 5-minute little daily sound bites that won't take a lot of your time, but they're going to begin to teach a learning path, and you're going to get to where you understand protein, fat, and fiber. I mean, when I was talking for 5 minutes there about protein, I imagine some people tuned out. I imagine some people heard one thing that they remember and the rest fell away. That's why the SOS is so important, because it can create that reinforcement. And then it backfills with emails, like with your grocery lists and snack ideas to help make it easier and approachable. Because frankly, we have to do the boring thing in the beginning, and it's called get the right groceries in the house and start putting the right on our plate. There's just no pixie dust. I mean, it's just flat out, we're going to have to show up and do some work. So that's program 1, SOS, Suzanne on your shoulder. The second one is what people are familiar with. That's your video courses. That's going to be, I need more information on a topic in a month. I need a weekly video course. I have to take a lesson. I'm really excited about that because this summer my daughter and I are going to do a mother-daughter nutrition course. And I think
that will be huge.
And then the third one I call Babysit My Plate. And that's the one-on-one work. That's for the person who's like, hey, and I need some answers from you. And we're going to work helping them to come up with what their breakfasts are for good protein, fat, and fiber breakfast. What are for good lunches? It's the person that really wants more hand holding, who wants to, when we're not in a quarantine, let me know what restaurant they're going to so that I can help them with ordering, or they're in the grocery store and they've got questions. They get a lot more access to me. And the reason I did the 3 different legs to this is because everybody's in a different spot in their journey. Some people are really intimidated by, I can't imagine being intimidated by me, but some people it's too intimate to talk. But maybe my voice would be a better spot. Others want somewhere in the middle. Sometimes people who work with me one-on-one go right into a video course, and then they have SOS in their ear just chirping every single day to encourage them.
Yeah, and I think the accountability piece is a really big factor on where you are, especially when it comes to trying to do something that you've been unsuccessful at before. Like, how do we do it this time? And am I willing to be vulnerable enough where I can answer and say, yeah, I got into the strawberry ice cream, sorry, or the box of Oreos was calling my name.
How do I recover?
Yes. Yeah. How do I recover from that? So I see we've got Jeff. He's kind of coming in and out. Not sure what he's doing there for his birthday, but I know we're working through the technology on this. So Suzanne, tell us, for business owners who are looking to try and grow their business, we want to talk to you a little bit more about your business. How did it start, or how long ago did it start, and what have you done to grow your business? What types of things?
Sure. Okay. So I've been in the space 10 years, mostly working one-on-one. So building out the digital platform came from when our cell phones had that voice text. When that arrived, that became my thing. Like all my girlfriends, they call them the Suzannities, that I would send these voice texts. And that was where I was like, wait a minute, I've got to automate this. So I've been working hard to launch Carpenter 180 and get all the automation out. Anybody who knows anything that's virtual, you have this whole email campaign back funnel, and then syncing it with the technology. That was a bigger undertaking than I could have ever imagined. So the way that I'm getting the word out with Carpenter 180 is, fortunately, I had an email base. Fortunately, I already had an email list that I was growing. I had a presence on Facebook and on Instagram. And so I believe that consistency is important because that builds trust. So those are two, I would say Instagram and Facebook are 2 different platforms that I'm using. The third one that I'm using a lot of in creating awareness about Carpenter 180, besides the blog and starting Facebook ads and things like that, it's doing a lot of podcasts and interviews. So think about this. This is what made sense to me. Think about when Hollywood releases a movie. like they were supposed to release Black Widow in the next month. And let's say, now it's pushed off to November, but let's just say it's going to come out. They pay and then they work their way in. So what happens is they start doing the ads. You start seeing it on TV. You start seeing the trailers in the theater where people go. And so I definitely prescribe to that, but you work your way in. So that's where you think about, the actress or Scarlett Johansson might show up on all the Tonight shows and she's telling her story, showing a clip and hoping people go to the video. So by doing a lot of the podcasts and people beginning to know, like, and trust me, and then the brand, and it begins to create that level of awareness. Also, in my world, is a lot of social proof. Like, wow, she's got these places that she's showing up, and I'm seeing her writing here and there. That begins to take people from just in the email list to customer.
So I'm hearing a lot of threads of things that are very familiar to me about piquing that curiosity and bringing in enlightenment and having that sales funnel built where you're developing a digital relationship with people to where they're ready to work with you. And, face it, there's a lot of people out there that are in the world of what you should be eating and how you should be exercising and the type of lifestyle you have. So standing out and leveraging that email list has been really incredibly important for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I don't know how many of the business owners here know about, like, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's got a big Instagram presence. And long ago, I learned jab, 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 right hook. And that is give, 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 hook. You give more than you ask, and you just ridiculously show up with content. If I can give any wisdom that I have picked up in this quarantine time, is just show up as a role model, and whatever your gifting is, just show up and give, and just be a light, be positive in this world, stay top of mind. Like you think about the Dancing with the Stars show, and you had your favorite dancer and they got voted off, and in the season finale they come back for the big thing and you're like, forgot all about them, they were my favorite. Like, we've got to stay top of mind right now.
Yes, Jeff and I preach that all the time about showing up and being consistent and giving. And Jeff, we're glad you're back with us.
Yeah, talk about being consistent. Good Lord, my Wi-Fi is not consistent.
Yes.
So I apologize for dipping out there.
But that's more relatable to everybody because we're all struggling with
all doing that.
I'm seriously, this is getting kind of silly with the amount of technical issues. This is a first for the podcast, though, so that's good. At least we're growing, because the more mistakes you make, the more you're actually trying and growing. That's certainly what I've found.
Bigger business, bigger problems.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. A bigger business does not solve all your money problems. It just brings new money problems.
They look different.
Oh, that they do. That they do. So I heard something about Facebook ads. So I want to dive into that just a little bit more. So are you currently running Facebook ads for your business?
I am just playing around with them. Like, I'm not the person to ask about that. I'm not, I know.
Okay. Well, it's the same thing that Gary preaches with jab, 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 right hook. Same thing for Facebook ads for you specifically, especially in the health and wellness industry. So always lead with value and free content. So you're putting money behind that free content and then retargeting those people that have actually shown interest in engaging with your content.
Perfect.
And it's a simple 1-2 punch. We'll stick with the boxing analogies for that. All right. So I missed a ton. I'm sure it was incredibly valuable, and I'm going to go back and watch all of it because, I was really into it until
it was really good.
Until the Wi-Fi gods cut me off.
Yeah.
On my birthday, unbelievable.
On your birthday.
I got my wife's knocking on the door. Hey, where did you go? I'm hosting a watch party. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're hosting a watch party. I'm sure the show is wonderful without me.
Let me know.
All right, so
Suzanne, go ahead.
So we've been on for, you guys have been on for 34 minutes, and I a little bit less than that. So let's go ahead and wrap it up because we want to keep everything within the 30-40 minute mark. So, any parting advice for those that are struggling with with weight loss, struggling with brain fog, because that's a big thing in business right now, is brain fog. Anything really that we can take and use right
Mhm.
now.
Well, okay, so I want to encourage you just to start today, not tomorrow,
Mhm.
not the next week. I want you to start right now. You might have blown it for breakfast. Who cares? Start now. And in business, the slight edge can be the death of you. If you don't show up one day, you may not show up the next. This is the same thing.
Mhm.
You have a stirring, like, I need to do something. The time to get started is right now. Just get back to drinking 3 liters of water a day. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink about it. If it feels overwhelming, sign up for 7 free days of SOS. I'm going to give you great principles just right there. But the important thing you have to do is start now. You guys, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. If you can't
Mhm.
climb the stairs, you can't walk to the car, you don't have it. I believe that everybody on this planet wants more self-esteem. They want to feel more confident, more
Mhm.
bold, to feel more energetic. They want to give more. You want to do more. But if you use this time and you let the emotions win and you don't control what's going on between the ears and take care of your health, and we are in a health epidemic right now. If you don't take care of your health, when we get outside and we get ready to run again, are you going to be a runner? Or are you going to want to stay home at Netflix and pajama bottoms? You don't want that. Your future
Mhm.
self does not want that for you. Right now, it's time to find somebody who can mentor you in your wellness for maintaining your energy, for making sure you're putting nutrition in your body.
Mhm.
Person can help you lose that weight, because we're going to need warriors when we are released from
Mhm.
our cocoon. So today is a good day to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I will say this:
Tomorrow.
put, if Netflix puts out another season of Tiger King, I, Tiger King's first. I'm sorry, it's the greatest documentary that has ever been put out there. If you haven't seen it, you are missing the greatest piece of content ever produced. It's unreal, absolutely unreal, and it makes you feel really good about yourself. It really does. Really does. Really does.
We're bringing back the mullet.
Yeah.
The mullet is the greatest thing ever. Did Carol do it? Hmm, I don't know, but I'm just oh man, I absolutely love it. So great pieces of advice there, Suzanne. Awesome
Thank
to
you.
have you on the show. Obviously,
Mhm.
tell
Thank you.
people where they can find you, where they can find your content, where they can find your programs, so that anybody that's interested can at least reach out to you and get the ball rolling to getting their health back.
Great. Well, and thank you very much for having me on here. I've
Mhm.
loved being here.
Good.
Everything is Carpenter 180. So Carpenter is my last name, spell ONE, and then 80. So www.carpenter180.com is the website. Go there, just get 7 days free SOS. I'll just start feeding you great content. Then if you watch me over on Instagram on my stories, I show up and I do lots of little things about how I do 180 eating, and not all day long, but maybe one part from each day. And I would do that to be a role model to show you how easy it is, but how I
Mhm.
feed it to my kids. And it's not we're outside eating grass all day. Like, it's really delicious and people like it. And then same thing, Facebook, Carpenter 180.
That's great. That's great. We've so enjoyed having you with us, Suzanne, and our listeners are really going to benefit from your wisdom
Mhm.
and be inspired that, even if they made a mistake at breakfast, that their new world starts now.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
good.
Thank you so much for being on Business Growth Insiders. To all of those I can't talk. Apparently, I need 3 liters of water. For all of those listening, watching, psychically visioning our show right now, please, if you enjoyed it, subscribe. We are on iTunes, Google, YouTube, you name it. We're there. Find us, businessgrowthinsiders.com as well. Thank you so much for being on the
Mhm.
show, Suzanne. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And Lisa,
Take your business and grow.
thanks, y'all.
Uh-huh.